This morning, the true toll of Spain's flood disaster revealed as emergency crews search wrecked homes and cars. Abortion and illegal immigration dominate debate in the final days of the US election. Peter Dutton on the defensive over his use of Gina Rinehart's jet as the flight perks scandal continues. And Josh Addo-Carr sacked by the Canterbury Bulldogs after returning a positive roadside test to cocaine.
This is 7 News with Sally Bowrey.
Good morning. The death toll from Spain's worst flood in a generation continues to rise. At least 158 people have died as the search continues for victims. Clean-up efforts are now ramping up as thousands remain displaced. Ben Downey reports from Valencia.
It's difficult to put the devastation into words. This snapshot here, though, might illustrate just a fraction of it. Have a look at this. Cars thrust together. Scenes like this really all across Valencia and southeastern Spain. There are tons of steel and concrete and vegetation just squished together. It's not just blocking roads where we are now, it's also blocking entrances to homes, residential blocks. When those floodwaters rose, this is what trapped the people inside their homes. 158 people at least dying due to this disaster, 40 of them at least in Port of the town we are now, including a family of 8 that was trapped inside a garage as the floodwaters rose. Fueled by nearly 500 millimetres of rainfall falling in just under 8 hours, caused by what's called a cold drop, where polar winds collide with clouds, dropping all of the moisture that's hanging above Spain on top of the region. Really something it wasn't able to prepare for. That's why helicopter crews have had to pluck people from those floodwaters, and when they survive, well, very often they don't have much of a home to return to. It's either been devastated by floodwaters, sometimes they can't even enter because of all this debris, and even if they can find their way inside, well, they also have to battle a supply shortage. Finding food, fresh and clean water as well is also a real battle for people as the humanitarian crisis takes over from the natural disaster. We're about to enter the second day of national mourning of 3 here in Spain as people just try and put one foot in front of the other.
Ben Downey reporting there. The two issues of immigration and abortion continue to dominate the US election as the race to the White House enters its final days. US correspondent Tim Lester is in Phoenix, Arizona. Hello to you, Tim. The Democrats have seized on comments by Donald Trump that he'll protect women whether they like it or not.
Good morning, Sally. Yes, they have. Donald Trump is appearing in the auditorium behind me, in long queues at the moment outside that auditorium to go in and see him in a forum with former Fox News host Tucker Carlson. But this is some of the excitement that Mr. Trump is generating. But typical with Donald Trump, he's also generating a lot of discussion, some anger and some applause. Certainly the comment he made last night has fired up Democrats who've been countering on this today. Take a listen.
I want to protect the women of our country. Well, I'm going to do it whether the women like it or not.
It actually is, I think, very offensive to women in terms of not understanding their agency, their authority, their right and their ability to make decisions about their own lives, including their own bodies.
Kamala Harris was speaking in Phoenix as Donald Trump visited, strangely, one of the states not inside the 7 battleground states that have dominated this campaign. He went to New Mexico there partly to court the Hispanic vote, telling New Mexicans how important the Hispanic vote is to him. But he's now moved here into Phoenix and will move on to Las Vegas later today, as we're essentially in the last 5 full days of this campaign. Already about 40% of Americans, that's roughly 60 million, have cast an early vote in this campaign. So both candidates for president are increasingly speaking to a smaller audience as these days go by. Americans have their final and major voting day midweek next week. Who knows how long it will take to determine the winner of the election after that. Sally.
Indeed. All right. Thanks for that, Tim Lester there in the US. We have some breaking news now. One Nation leader Pauline Hanson has been found guilty this morning of racially vilifying Greens Senator Mehreen Faruqi. The federal court finding a post on X from 2022 telling Faruqi to return to Pakistan was an angry personal attack that conveyed a strong form of racism. Justice Angus Stewart ordering Hanson to delete the post within 7 days and pay Faruqi's legal costs. The flight perks scandal engulfing federal politics is getting nastier by the day. The federal government now accusing Peter Dutton of lying about calling in a favour from Australia's richest woman. Let's go live to political reporter Rob Scott in Canberra. Hello to you, Rob. The opposition leader has now admitted asking to use Gina Rinehart's private jet.
Yeah, he has, Sally. After initially saying he had never requested access to the billionaire mining magnate's plane, he's backed down, conceding that his staff did speak to Ms Rinehart's people to see if he could use the aircraft to get him from Rockhampton to Sydney for a Bali bombing memorial, because he says the government wouldn't provide an RAAF flight. He says the alternative was a $40,000 taxpayer-funded charter. The government, though, is now turning the blowtorch onto Mr Dutton, accusing him of hypocrisy after he used claims the Prime Minister personally solicited upgrades from former Qantas chief Alan Joyce to attack his integrity. And those are allegations which Mr Albanese has categorically rejected.
Peter Dutton was asked, did he ask billionaire Gina Rinehart to use her private plane? And he said no. Now it turns out that that's a lie. So the bloke who's been attacking the Prime Minister uphill and down dale all week about this is guilty of the thing that he wrongly accused the Prime Minister of.
You don't need to go into bat for Upgrade Albo and his dodgy deals. He wouldn't do the same for you.
After leading the charge against Anthony Albanese, the Shadow Transport Minister Bridget McKenzie says she shouldn't have been so emphatic earlier this week when she said she's never received a flight upgrade, writing to the 3 domestic airlines to make sure she hasn't forgotten to declare any freebies. Sally?
All right, thank you very much, Rob Scott in Canberra there. Pay rises worth thousands of dollars a year are flowing through to workers under the so-called Same Job, Same Pay legislation. Blake Johnson has all the details for us this morning. Blake, flight attendants are among some of the big winners.
Yes, Sal, some long-haul flight attendants with Qantas just scored a 28% pay rise under this legislation that targets companies using labour hire firms. Those firms sometimes provide a backdoor way to pay staff less, despite doing the same work as employees of the actual company. It affects around 800 Qantas cabin crew, plus 320 workers at a mine in Queensland will receive up to 20 grand a year more, and staff at a Queensland meatworks can expect pay rises of up to 25%.
Qantas has not employed a long-haul flight attendant since before 2007. So it's incredible that we've been able to sit down and negotiate a fair outcome where the use of labour hire is going to be a thing of the past.
The federal opposition says it will repeal the laws if elected next year, but right now more than 40 same job, same pay applications are going through the Fair Work Commission. Sal?
All right, thanks. Blake Johnson there. The Canterbury Bulldogs has sacked Josh Addo-Carr after he returned a positive result to a cocaine at a roadside drug test. The star winger fought to keep his job, fronting a Bulldogs board meeting into the night. Amy Clements has the details.
Well, Josh Addo-Carr says he wishes the Bulldogs and their fans nothing but success after his contract was torn up by the club's board. The decision follows an incident in September when the 29-year-old was pulled over by police and allegedly tested positive to cocaine in an initial and secondary drug test just a week before the Bulldogs' first finals game in 8 years. Addo-Carr insisted he hadn't knowingly taken recreational drugs and hoped for leniency. However, the board chose to part ways with him, citing the failed drug test and a lack of transparency as serious breaches of his contract. But this is what his lawyer had to say to 7 News about the decision.
We put forward material that had not previously been raised with the board. Unfortunately, that did not sway the decision. I respect the decision of the board, but I don't agree with it.
The club said Josh has given fans many memorable moments over the past 3 years, and they share in their disappointment that things ended this way. But the season has shown the importance of having clear standards and values. The 29-year-old had a year to run on his $550,000 a year contract. Although the winger is expected to attract interest from other clubs, Addo-Carr still has 3 matches left of his 4-match ban, which will carry into next year, along with a $15,000 fine from the NRL.
Next in 7 News, how North Korea has raised the stakes by test firing a new missile, and safeguarding endangered species, the global effort to build a Noah's Ark of animal DNA.
The most historic US election in our lifetime. Kamala Harris versus Donald Trump. The first female president or the comeback of the century. The impact down under could be huge. With Seven's correspondents live across America, led by Michael Usher and Angela Cox, with Natalie Barr live from the White House, with every state declared first, with exclusive data from CNN and NBC. Hold on tight. Anything can happen. The only place to watch history unfold is on 7.
A driver's been taken to hospital in a critical condition after crashing into a traffic light and flipping her car in Sydney's eastern suburbs. The 47-year-old woman was trapped inside her car on Bayswater Road in Edgecliff before emergency services pulled her to safety. She is in St Vincent's Hospital being treated now for injuries. North Korean troops are expected to join the fight in Ukraine within days. At a joint meeting in South Korea, the American Secretary of State revealed that 10,000 soldiers from North Korea are expected to be thrown into the fight against Ukrainian troops in the Kursk region.
Should these troops engage in combat or combat support operations against Ukraine, they would become legitimate military targets. Now, one of the reasons that Russia is turning to these North Korean troops is that it's desperate. Putin has been throwing more and more Russians into a meat grinder of his own making in Ukraine. Now he's turning to North Korean troops, and that is a clear sign of weakness.
The US Defence Secretary stressed he believed Ukraine would continue to hold its territory. North Korea's launched an intercontinental ballistic missile. It's supposedly capable of reaching the US mainland and is seen as a direct warning from North Korean leader Kim Jong-un. South Korea and the US have conducted joint exercises in response. Scientists have introduced new technology that could one day save endangered species. Samples of genetic material are taken from risk animals as the ultimate insurance policy in case we have to bring the extinct back to life.
It's science out of a Hollywood movie. Conservationists taking a page out of Jurassic Park, where dinosaurs were resurrected. It's the first step towards a global database. Frozen DNA could be the key to bring extinct animals back to life, and London Zoo is already contributing its animal genetic footprints to a Noah's Ark of samples.
It's really cutting edge, looking at storing not the animal but the DNA from that animal in such a way that it can be revived. Try and help those species that really we may have lost. I mean, it would be sad, it would be tragic to get to that point, but if we ever do, we've at least got this sort of stopgap.
More than 500 native Australian animals at risk of extinction could benefit. Whilst this technology won't halt the rate of decline, these cryogenic tanks will store enough genetic material to revive species even if they are down to their last pair.
This could be an absolutely vital lifeline for many of the species that are literally on the brink of extinction. We can freeze tissue down, freeze those species down in time, ready really to be brought back to life at a moment's notice in 10, 20 or 1,000 years' time, effectively still in a living state.
Although the system is still being developed, conservationists are hopeful what was once science fiction could become fact. Talia Tranter, 7 News.
To finance now, and joining me this morning is James Towell from ING Bank. Hello James, how's the share market looking to finish the week?
Yeah, good morning, Sally. It's been a bit of a shaky start to Friday's session on our market, the ASX 200. Down about 90 points or 1.1%. Investors somewhat spooked by some sharp declines on Wall Street overnight with some disappointing tech earnings out of the United States. So this shaky start to November follows what was a fairly disappointing October as well. The index down about 1.3% here in Australia. And what's really weighed on our market today has been the financial sector. Investment bank Macquarie Group down about 4.5%. It released its first half earnings this morning, missing the market's expectations. It's also lowered its interim dividend payment to investors as well. Meanwhile, we have seen the Aussie dollar also falling close to 5% over the course of October. It's been fairly steady at the moment this morning now. It's buying about 65.8 US cents at the moment. Sally?
All right, thanks for that. James Tao there. Next in 7 News, we'll have sport with Liam Tapper, including our Aussie Test hopefuls failed to make their case for Test selection. And Alex the Demon Demonor reaches a career-high ranking.
Good morning. Australia's Test hopefuls have squandered their bids to replace David Warner at the top of the order. Blues teams Sam Constas and Cam Bancroft both made ducks, while Marcus Harris posted just 17 for Australia A against India A in Mackay. Nathan McSweeney was valiant in defence, but has been just dismissed at the start of the day for 39 runs. The Kolkata Knight Riders have released Mitchell Starc for the next year's IPL season. The Aussie spearhead signed for a record-breaking $4.42 million at last year's auction. The Sydney Thunder have posted their first win of the WBBL season, defeating the Hobart Hurricanes by 33 runs at North Sydney Oval. Chamari Adapatu scored 38 before being dismissed by this specky from Molly Strano.
What? Molly Strano, are you kidding me?
Wow. Set 146. The Canes scored 113. Hannah Darlington, the pick of the Thunder bowlers, claiming 3 for 16. The Dragons and the Eels are leading contenders to sign Josh Addo-Carr after his contract was torn up by the Bulldogs. As reported earlier, the Bulldogs board sacked Addo-Carr after he returned 2 positive results for cocaine, the first during a roadside drug test in September. The Roosters' shock call to release front rower Terrell May has sparked speculation that the Tricolours are interested in signing ex-Dragon captain Ben Hunt. The 34-year-old walked away from the final year of his $1 million contract with the Red V. And Broncos superstar Reece Walsh has signed a contract extension until 2029 worth $5 million, the biggest deal in club history. The Demons have had a day to forget, losing 2 key figures at the club. The sacking of CEO Gary Pert, as well as Joel Smith's 4-year ban for cocaine use and trafficking, heightens cultural issues that Melbourne currently face. In his first public outing, Christian Petrarca broke his silence.
I think for me, culture is an interesting word, I think. It's a high-performance industry, and for me, we're always trying to improve and get better. And I think for me, getting good people through the door is the right thing.
Geelong skipper Paddy Dangerfield has signed with the Cats until the end of 2026. Alex de Minaur avenged his US Open loss to Jack Draper, coming back to beat the Brit 2-1 at the Paris Masters. The Demon now ranked number 8 in the world. Fellow Aussie Jordan Thompson also through to the quarterfinals, defeating French veteran Adrian Manarino in straight sets, but Aussie Alexei Poprin was beaten by Karen Kachanov. Pressure is already mounting on the Brian Goorjian coach Sydney Kings after Melbourne United defeated the NBL Championship favourites 87-83. Jack Wyatt's 2 crucial 3-pointers in the closing minutes lifted Melbourne to victory.
Delvin over, finds White again! Oh, wow! Oh, he brings the crowd to their feet, and he's pumped!
The Kings have now lost 3 on the trot. And Sal, with a big summer of Test cricket against India coming on, there's still so many more headaches at the top of the order. It's not good.
Indeed, I need some Panadol. All right, thanks for that, Liam. Next in 7's Morning News, we'll have the national weather forecast. Stay with us. To the national weather this morning, and showers and storms are continuing across the northern tropics, also parts of Queensland and eastern New South Wales because of unstable air. A cold front's bringing showers and gusty winds to Tasmania. Around the national capitals, Brisbane showers and a possible storm, 30 degrees. Sydney a shower or two, 22. Canberra partly cloudy, 23. Melbourne cloud clearing, 17 degrees. Hobart showers clearing, 15. Adelaide mostly sunny, 24. Perth mostly sunny and 28. And Darwin a shower or two, 32 degrees. And that's 7 News to now. We'll keep you up to date throughout the day. Our next major bulletin is at 4. I'm Sally Bowrey. Thanks for your company. Have a good day.
The 7 News app will give you the news you want. Download now.